The galaxy's laughter carried on, but fate has a way of ending jokes. The first true encounter was not planned by the Council, nor by human leaders. It began with arrogance. An alien empire known for cruelty grew tired of the whispers about humans. Their commanders wanted to crush the rumors with fire. They sent a fleet of 30 warships into human space, confident it would be quick. They called it a demonstration, but it was meant to be a warning. The alien fleet entered the outer edges of Seoul, their ships blazing with banners and power. Their admirals boasted of drinking human blood. They broadcast messages across all channels. Surrender your world, surrender your cities, surrender your skies. Humanity has no place among the stars. The words were filled with contempt, as if humans were insects beneath their claws. None. Earth. Alarms sounded. Underground command bunkers filled with officers, screens lit up with red marks. Everyone knew the day had come, the day they had been building for. Silence filled the war room as human commanders watched the alien fleet close in. 30 ships against Earth, 30 ships that thought they were gods. The aliens expected fear, but Earth responded with silence. No threats, no begging, only the quiet hum of machines powering up. In orbit around Mars, hidden inside a crater shielded from scanners, a massive hangar opened. One by one, human warships slipped into the void, their hulls dark, their engines whispering. The first encounter had begun. The alien fleet laughed again when they saw the ships appear. "These are not warships," their admiral sneered. "These are rusted boxes, weak and pathetic." But their laughter did not last long. The first human salvo was unleashed. Streaks of blue light crossed the void, crashing into alien shields with precision. Entire sections of enemy armor peeled away like paper. One alien cruiser split in half. Before it could even fire back, panic spread through their formation. The humans moved differently than any fleet the galaxy had seen. Their ships did not dance gracefully or follow predictable lines. They struck like predators, silent, fast, brutal. Missiles swarmed from hidden bays. Torpedoes locked onto power signatures. Lasers burned through hulls with surgical strikes. In moments, the arrogance of the alien fleet shattered. The admiral barked orders, trying to form ranks, but every time they turned to face the humans, another wave of attacks came from the shadows. The dreadnought had not even appeared yet. Only destroyers and cruisers, and already the mighty alien fleet was breaking. On Earth, the war room watched in silence, officers clenching their fists. This was not just a battle. This was history, humanity's first true strike, their first declaration to the stars. They would not bow, not break, not kneel. Then the void trembled. A massive shadow moved behind the human formation, dwarfing every ship. The first dreadnought revealed itself, its hull black as midnight, its guns glowing with power. The alien admiral froze when he saw it. This was no freighter, no rusty box. This was a titan born for war. The dreadnought's cannons unleashed a storm. One blast tore through 3 alien ships in a single shot. The shockwave rippled across space. Alarms screamed inside every alien vessel. Fear crushed their arrogance. "Retreat," the admiral shouted. "Retreat now." But it was too late. Human ships pressed the attack, cutting off escape routes, hurting the enemy like prey. One by one, alien ships erupted in flames. Some tried to flee, but missiles followed them, striking engines and reactors. The void was filled with fire. When the battle ended, silence returned. 30 alien warships had entered Seoul. Only 4 escaped, broken, scarred, and humiliated. They fled back to their empire, carrying the story that would shatter the galaxy's laughter forever. The council chamber erupted days later when the news arrived. Delegates shouted, some in disbelief, some in fear, others in denial. "Impossible," they cried. "Humans cannot do this, they cannot." But the reports were clear. Recordings showed human ships moving with deadly precision, a dreadnought splitting fleets apart. The galaxy had mocked Earth, and Earth had answered. On Earth, the victory was not celebrated with loud cheers. Instead, there was silence, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Commanders knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would not forget, and it would not forgive. But the humans were ready. Their armada had only begun to rise, and the first encounter had sent the message across the stars. Humanity was no longer the weak child in the council. Humanity was a force to be feared, The aliens had come to mock, but they left broken. And for the first time, the galaxy looked toward Earth not with laughter, but with fear. The galaxy could no longer laugh as freely as before. The whispers had turned into fear. The reports of Saul's battle spread like fire through markets, spaceports, and council halls. Some dismissed the stories as exaggerations, others swore the recordings were forged, yet the truth gnawed at every commander's mind. The humans had unleashed something that should not have been possible, and at the center of those stories was one terrifying word: the dreadnought. It was not just a ship, it was a statement, a colossal machine of war that dwarfed the alien vessels. It fought. Its silhouette had burned itself into the memory of every survivor. Black steel, glowing lines of energy, weapons so powerful they tore apart fleets in single volleys. The dreadnought had been revealed, and the galaxy now understood that humanity had not only built ships, they had built monsters. Inside the hidden docks of Luna's far side, the dreadnought lay in silence, a giant resting in its cradle. Workers moved like ants across its hull, repairing, upgrading, feeding the beast for the next war. Its name was etched into steel letters that gleamed in artificial light. It was called Vanguard, the first of many. Crews trained tirelessly inside its endless corridors. Pilots drilled in launch bays. Engineers monitored reactors that pulsed. Like artificial hearts in the command deck, officers studied every alien tactic, every weakness, preparing for the day the dreadnought would sail again. Humanity had waited too long in silence. Now their silence had become the sound of thunder. The aliens who had fled Sol still carried their scars. Their ships limped into home ports, hulls shredded, crews broken. They told stories of weapons that pierced shields as if they did not exist, missiles that hunted them even across light seconds of space, and a ship so large it blocked out the stars. Their leaders dismissed them in public, but in private, fear carved its mark into their hearts. One empire, proud and ancient, decided to test the truth. They sent another fleet, larger than before, armed with their most advanced ships. They expected that humans had only one dreadnought, perhaps only one hidden weapon, but what they found left them trembling. As they entered the dark reaches near Jupiter, more shadows moved. Not one, but 3 dreadnoughts emerged from hiding, their weapons glowing with deadly promise. The alien fleet broke before the first shot was fired. Their commanders screamed for retreat, but humanity did not allow retreat. The dreadnoughts advanced like mountains with engines, their guns firing in a rhythm that turned enemy ships into bursts of light. Cruisers burned, carriers split open, destroyers shattered. The second test ended in fire. Back in the council, silence filled the chambers when reports came. No one dared laugh now. The smug tones were gone, replaced by uneasy whispers. "How many do they have?" one delegate asked. "If 3 exist, perhaps 30 more," another whispered. "What if they never stopped building?" Fear began to spread like a poison. Meanwhile on Earth, leaders spoke softly but with iron in their words. Humanity had been mocked for centuries, treated as weak, ignored in every decision. They had listened to the insults, endured the mockery, and they had prepared. The dreadnoughts were not just ships, they were a reminder. Earth had never been defenseless, only patient. On the far edges of the galaxy, alien spies tried desperately to uncover the truth. Some managed to sneak close to human shipyards. What they saw broke their courage. Whole asteroid belts turned into factories, ship hulls stretching for kilometers, carriers the size of cities, dreadnoughts rising from construction frames like sleeping titans. They fled with the images, but many never returned, their signals cut off by silent hunters lurking in the dark. Among the common people of the galaxy, fear turned into rumors. Some claimed the humans had made pacts with dark gods. Others said they had found ancient technology buried on their world. Many whispered the most frightening idea of all, that humanity had done this alone, with their own hands, with their own will. If that was true, then no empire was safe, and deep in the command deck of Vanguard, the human admiral stood watching the stars, his voice calm but unshakable. "They thought we were weak. They thought we would bow. Now they will see what Earth truly is. We are the storm, and the storm has only begun." The dreadnought stirred, Its engines ignited with a low roar that shook the void. One by one, more dreadnoughts joined it. Black steel and glowing power, an armada rising from silence. Each ship a blade aimed at the heart of the galaxy. The age of laughter was over. The age of fear had begun. Humanity's dreadnoughts had awakened, and the galaxy would never sleep soundly again. The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of worlds and millions of voices, but when the name of Earth was spoken in the halls of the Galactic Council, it was always followed by laughter. The alien rulers considered humans nothing more than a primitive species, weak and unimportant. They had no mighty colonies, no vast fleets, no powerful weapons to command respect. To most aliens, Earth was only a small blue world, lost in the corner of space. A planet that dared to dream, but would never rise. Council chambers rang with mocking words. Alien senators with scaled faces and glowing eyes smirked whenever humans tried to speak. One of them, a tall reptilian warlord, hissed across the chamber. "Why do we waste our time with Earth? They are children with sticks pretending to be warriors." Another laughed, his wings shimmering with pride. "Let them bark, they have no teeth, their ships are cargo barges, their soldiers are farmers, their leaders beg for scraps." The laughter echoed, and every alien voice seemed to join. Human delegates sat silently, their jaws tight. They did not argue, they did not fight back, because they knew something the galaxy did not. Behind their silence was a secret, one that had been forged in the shadows of the void. While the galaxy laughed, humanity had been building outside the council, in hidden corners of the galaxy. Strange rumors began to rise. Scouts spoke of human outposts that looked abandoned but were filled with strange energy signatures. Some said human freighters carried more than supplies, that they carried weapons, ship parts, and soldiers. But every time a scout tried to uncover the truth, their signals vanished. Fleets sent to investigate never returned. Still, the galaxy laughed. They thought the humans were cowards who hid in the dark, too afraid to fight openly. Some believed Earth was wasting what little resources it had on useless projects. Others thought the humans were delusional, building toys that could never stand against true warships. "Let them dream," alien rulers said. "Dreams cannot win battles." But whispers continued. A lone mercenary told of seeing a massive shape drift in the black, larger than any freighter, silent as death. "It was no transport," he said with shaking hands. "It was a warship, a human warship." His employers dismissed him, calling it a lie. But fear had already touched their eyes. Back on Earth, leaders gathered in secret. They knew the galaxy's opinion, they heard the laughter, but they did not care. They had prepared for decades. Humanity had always been underestimated. On their own world, history was filled with moments when others thought humans were too weak, too divided, too small, but every time humanity endured, every time humanity rose. Now in the age of stars, they were doing it again. Earth had poured its resources into hidden shipyards orbiting moons, buried under asteroid belts and stationed beyond known trade routes. They were building ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Their designs were not elegant, not beautiful. Like alien vessels, they were brutal, armored and filled with weapons. They were built not for show but for survival. Still, the galaxy did not believe. They mocked and jeered, calling humans dreamers who would never stand against a true fleet. Aliens feasted and joked that if war ever came, Earth would fall in a single day. They toasted to humanity's weakness, never realizing that their words were writing the opening lines of their own downfall. On Earth, young cadets trained in simulators, learning tactics that no alien commander expected from farmers. Pilots drilled in silence. Engineers worked without rest. The people of Earth knew the truth of their situation. They knew the galaxy would one day test them, and they refused to be prey. As the years passed, the laughter of the galaxy grew louder, but so did the preparations of Earth. It was a dangerous game, one where every secret mattered. Human spies stole alien data, studied their fleets, their weapons, their strategies, and in hidden labs, human scientists twisted those discoveries into something new, something powerful. By the time the galaxy laughed at the 100th meeting of the Council, Earth's Armada was no longer a dream. It was real, hidden among shadows, shielded by silence, waiting for the day it would rise. The council's great hall shook with laughter once again, alien voices roaring as one, mocking humanity's weakness. But outside those walls, in the cold and empty dark of space, human warships floated in silence, their engines cold, their weapons ready, unseen and unknown. A storm waiting to be unleashed, and in the hearts of every human soldier, pilot, and commander burned the same thought. Let them laugh today, because tomorrow the galaxy would see the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm that would change everything. The galaxy carried on with its laughter, but behind that noise, small pieces of fear began to move quietly, like shadows across star maps. Smugglers whispered about strange convoys that slipped through uncharted lanes. Always human ships, always guarded, and never seen again once they vanished into the void. A lone freighter pilot claimed he saw the edge of something far larger than a simple station, a metal structure half buried in an asteroid field, glowing faintly with life. He swore it was a shipyard, but the story was dismissed as drunken nonsense. Still, the whisper spread. Alien intelligence networks tried to dig deeper. They sent probes into human-controlled sectors, but most probes never returned. A few that did came back with scrambled data, twisted images of massive shadows in space that could not be explained. Ghosts, some called them. Human lies, others insisted. The council laughed again, but this time the laughter was not as strong. Somewhere deep in their minds, a small question began to rise. What if humans were not lying? In a distant system near the edge of the Orion Arm, a mercenary fleet was hired by a rival empire to scout the Sol border. They expected easy work, to push around humans and return with amusing stories. But weeks passed and no ship came back. Their last transmission was cut off mid-sentence. A scream, a flare of light, and silence. The galaxy ignored it, or pretended to. But those who had paid for the fleet clenched their jaws in silence. Meanwhile, on Earth, the great secret lived and grew, under the black skies of Luna's far side, beneath the icy crust of Europa, and within hollowed-out asteroids beyond. Pluto, shipyards thrummed with hidden life. Thousands of workers labored without pause, welding steel, fitting engines, loading reactors. These were not the graceful ships of the aliens. They were armored beasts, bristling with weapons, ugly, heavy, and terrifying. Every ship was a promise. Every ship was a warning. Young officers were sworn to silence as they stepped onto flight decks that stretched for kilometers. They saw the skeletons of dreadnoughts rising like mountains in space. Carriers, fast enough to hold whole cities. Cruisers armed with weapons that pulsed with strange blue light. They trained in secret academies, learning strategies not from alien doctrines but from the lessons of Earth's own history. Ambush, misdirection, endurance, sacrifice. The galaxy thought humans lacked strategy, but they were writing a new one. Rumors turned into fear when trade routes near human space began to shift. Merchants who once flew past Earth's borders with ease now reported mysterious zones of silence. Ships that entered never came back. Alien commanders scoffed and called it human piracy. Yet they never dared to enter those zones themselves. Let the small creatures play with their toys, they said, but they said it while glancing nervously at their own star maps. One night in the Great Council Hall, a message arrived. It was a recording from a scout ship that had broken into human-controlled space. The feed showed endless darkness. Then a shadow moved across the stars, a shape so vast it filled the screen. The scout's captain whispered, "That is no freighter. It's a monster." Then the feed ended, a burst of static. Silence followed. The chamber erupted in noise. Some mocked the humans again, claiming it was a trick, but others shifted in their seats, their eyes narrowed. Among them, a few older commanders spoke quietly. They remembered history. They remembered that humans were survivors. They had seen the pattern. When underestimated, humans endured. When mocked, they grew stronger. Perhaps, one whispered, we are laughing at the wrong time. His words were ignored but not forgotten. Back in the shadows of Sol, the first of the dreadnoughts came alive. Engines roared for the first time. Reactors hummed with power. Crews walked their steel corridors in silence, touching the walls with pride. The ships were not just machines. They were symbols, proof that Earth had never been weak, only waiting. The whispers grew louder, spreading across cantinas, marketplaces, and even in military briefings. The humans are hiding something, they said. A fleet, a weapon, an armada. But there was no proof, and without proof, the laughter continued. Still, the galaxy had changed. Their laughter now carried a tremor. Their smiles held unease. And on Earth, every whisper was a victory. Because humanity wanted the galaxy to doubt, they wanted the galaxy to fear shadows. Every vanished ship, every broken transmission, every rumor was part of the plan. The more the galaxy mocked, the less they watched closely. And the less they watched, the stronger humanity became. Above the dark side of the moon, a massive shape moved silently, blocking starlight as it turned. It was the first completed human dreadnought, its name carved in steel, its guns hungry. For war it floated in silence, unseen by the galaxy. But in time, the whispers of this beast would become screams. The galaxy had thought Sul was the end of the story. They had believed humanity showed its hand too early, that perhaps the humans had one or two great ships hidden away, but nothing more. Yet they were wrong. Sul was not the end. It was only the beginning. The dreadnought Vanguard had been the first shadow of a storm, and now the storm was about to break across the stars. In the cold silence of space, hidden shipyards flared with sudden life. Engines roared as vast ships drifted free from their cradles. Carriers as large as floating cities, cruisers heavy with guns, destroyers sleek and armed to hunt, dreadnoughts vast and black as the void itself. One by one they joined in perfect formation, a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, an armada. Above the dark side of Luna, the second wave of dreadnoughts rolled out, their hulls glowing faintly in the starlight. Each one bore names chosen with care. Indomitable, Retribution, Titan. Each name whispered power. Across Mars, shipyards birthed carriers filled with swarms of fighters, their hangar bays glowing, like fiery mouths out beyond Pluto. Asteroids cracked open to reveal hidden fortresses, releasing entire battle groups into the void. Humanity's silence had ended. On Earth, the people knew little of the details, but they felt it in their bones. They saw young men and women called to service. They saw launches of shuttles vanishing into the night sky. They heard rumors of ships too large to imagine. Hope replaced fear in their hearts. For the first time since joining the galaxy, humanity no longer felt small. They felt powerful. In the council, alien rulers stared at new reports with pale faces. Fleets were sighted, near systems once thought empty. Trade routes suddenly shifted as human patrols appeared where no patrol should be. Pirates who once raided human transports began to vanish. Some whispered that humans were not only building ships, they were spreading them like seeds across the void, preparing for something larger. In a border system, an arrogant alien empire sent another probing fleet. This time, with nearly 50 ships, they entered the system with confidence, expecting another quick lesson or perhaps even victory. Instead, they were met by a formation of over 100 human warships, destroyers darting like wolves, cruisers forming a wall of steel, dreadnoughts looming behind like mountains. The alien fleet did not even last an hour. Survivors limped back once again, their voices shaking as they spoke of an endless line of human ships, of formations moving with terrifying precision, of weapons that burned through their strongest armor. The laughter that once filled the galaxy was now gone, replaced by quiet dread. Inside Earth's command halls, the admirals did not smile, they did not cheer. They knew what was coming. The galaxy would not sit idle. They would unite. They would gather their greatest fleets and strike. But that was the plan. Humanity wanted them to come, wanted them to believe they could crush Earth, because when they came, they would find not a weak world but an armada waiting. The training intensified. Fighter pilots launched from carriers in endless drills. Dreadnought gunners tested their weapons on drifting asteroids, reducing mountains of rock to dust. Engineers worked tirelessly to reinforce armor plating and calibrate shield generators. Every day the armada grew stronger. Every day the galaxy's window of advantage closed tighter. Rumors spread like fire across the outer colonies of alien empires. Merchants whispered of massive fleets drifting silently through uncharted sectors. Smugglers told stories of convoys that never made it past human space. Some swore they saw the silhouettes of dreadnoughts at the edge of their scanners, waiting like predators in the dark. The galaxy's people began to ask dangerous questions. If humans had been underestimated once, what else had been ignored? In the outer systems of the Orion Arm, humanity's armada gathered, thousands of ships aligned in formation, their hulls glinting faintly in the starlight. It was a sight no one beyond Earth's command had ever seen. Wave upon wave of warships, their engines silent, their weapons humming with restrained fury. Fleets so vast they seemed to bend the void itself. This was no longer defense. This was a declaration. On the flagship Vanguard, the admiral stood before his officers, his voice low but unyielding. The galaxy mocked us. They called us weak. They laughed while we prepared. But their laughter is over. Today we rise not as prey but as predators. Today humanity shows the stars what an armada truly means. The officers stood in silence, their eyes burning with resolve. Engines ignited, and the void came alive. The armada moved as one. Thousands of ships drifting from hiding into open space. Their formation stretched across the stars, each dreadnought a giant casting long shadows, each carrier a hive of wings ready to strike, each destroyer a blade drawn from its sheath. It was no longer whispers, no longer rumors. The galaxy would see the rise of humanity's armada had begun, and with it, the end of the age of mockery. The galaxy would never laugh again. They would tremble, and soon they would kneel. The first great war between humanity and the galaxy did not begin with warnings or diplomacy. It began with fire. Alien empires that had once mocked humans finally united their fleets. Rival species who had hated each other for centuries stood side by side. Their only common goal was to crush Earth before its growing armada consumed them all. They believed their combined might would be unstoppable. They believed humanity had shown its full strength. They were wrong. The alien fleet was enormous. Thousands of ships gathered in formation, carriers filled with fighters, destroyers bristling, with guns and battleships armed with weapons designed to crack moons apart. They advanced into human space, with banners of war blazing across the stars. Their admirals promised a swift victory. We will burn Earth to ash before the humans rise any further, one declared. His words carried across the council, cheered by rulers desperate to believe them. But in the void between stars, the human armada waited, silent and patient, like hunters in the dark. Dreadnoughts lurked in the shadows of dead worlds. Carriers drifted behind asteroid belts. Destroyers stalked the lanes where the enemy would pass. The aliens thought they were marching to conquer, but in truth, they were walking into a trap. The first clash came near a barren system at the edge of Orion Arm. Alien scouts entered confidently, scanning for human defenses. They found nothing. They reported empty space, safe passage. Then their signals vanished. The main fleet entered, and that was when the void erupted. From behind asteroids and drifting moons, hundreds of human warships ignited their engines. Their guns roared in unison. The first volley tore through the alien vanguard. Entire cruisers vanished in bursts of flame. Carriers burned before they could release their fighters. Confusion spread instantly. Admirals screamed orders, but human formations moved with ruthless precision. Destroyers darted through gaps, swarming like wolves, launching torpedoes that struck engines and reactors. Cruisers formed walls of fire, unleashing coordinated barrages that ripped apart battleships. And then the dreadnoughts came, massive shadows advancing slowly, their weapons glowing like suns. One blast from a dreadnought cannon split an alien capital ship in two. Another carved a hole straight through an enemy formation. The void became a storm of light and death. The alien fleet fought back with everything they had. Their numbers were vast, their firepower immense. But humans fought differently. They adapted in seconds. They sacrificed ships to save formations. They used tactics stolen from centuries of history. Ambushes, feints, and relentless strikes. Every time the aliens thought they had cornered the humans, they found themselves surrounded instead. Fighters, swarmed like hornets, human pilots diving straight into impossible odds. Missiles streaked across the black. Torpedoes hammered shields until they collapsed. And in the midst of chaos, the dreadnoughts kept advancing. Unstoppable, each one a fortress, each one a nightmare. Alien admirals began to break. Some screamed for retreat, others ordered reckless charges, but every decision ended the same way. With human guns answering, with alien ships burning, the galaxy had brought its greatest fleets. But even united, they could not crush the storm that humanity had unleashed. On Earth, command centers tracked every battle in real time. Officers stood with tense faces, listening to the endless reports. One by one, alien fleets crumbled. Human ships pressed forward and across the stars. A new truth was born. Humanity was not just defending its world, it was conquering the battlefield. News spread like wildfire. Colonies at the edge of alien empires received panicked transmissions. The humans are unstoppable. Their dreadnoughts are everywhere, our fleets are gone in marketplaces and stations. People who once laughed at Earth now whispered in fear. Merchants rerouted their ships away from human space. Smugglers refused contracts that led near Sol. The galaxy's laughter had turned into trembling silence. And still the war raged on. System after system fell into chaos. Every alien counterattack met with brutal efficiency. Every grand fleet scattered like prey before the Armada. The galaxy had thought humanity's rise was a rumor, then a surprise. But now it was undeniable. War was no longer between empires. It was between humanity and everyone else. On the bridge of the Vanguard, the human admiral stood watching as another alien fleet collapsed before him, his voice calm but heavy. They thought we would break. They thought numbers would overwhelm us. But they do not understand. Numbers do not win wars. Will does. And humanity's will cannot be broken. His officers saluted in silence, their faces lit by the glow of enemy ships burning across the void. The war in the stars had begun, and humanity was winning. Every battle was a message, every victory a warning. Earth had risen, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it, not now, not ever. The war had spread across half the Orion Arm, and everywhere the story was the same. Fleets sent to crush humanity were shattered. Empires that once mocked Earth now whispered in secret, asking themselves how long before the humans came for them. The galaxy had thought this would be a short campaign, a quick and brutal reminder to stay in their place. But it was not. The war had turned, the tide was shifting, and the current carried only one name: humanity. The council chambers no longer echoed with laughter. Now they echoed with fear. Alien rulers shouted over each other, some demanding immediate surrender, others screaming for one last unified strike. But all of them carried the same haunted look, the look of prey who suddenly realized the hunter's eyes were upon them. One senator slammed his claws against the table. We are the galaxy's might. How can Earth, a single world, do this? But no answer came, only silence. In the void, the human armada pressed forward, not recklessly, not with arrogance, but with cold precision. Every strike was calculated, every system chosen with care. Humanity did not seek glory, they sought victory. Dreadnoughts led the charge into contested zones, their colossal cannons tearing apart defenses that had stood for centuries. Carriers unleashed wave after wave of fighters swarming like angry stars across the black. Cruisers and destroyers moved like blades, cutting through enemy lines before they could form. Alien commanders tried to rally. They sent larger fleets, they built new weapons. They set traps in asteroid fields and hidden nebulae. But humans had prepared for all of it. Spies had stolen their plans long before, and even when surprised, human tactics shifted in moments. Their adaptability broke every ambush. Their determination carried them through every storm. The galaxy was not fighting machines. It was fighting willpower, and, by one, alien strongholds fell. Colonies surrendered without resistance, broadcasting desperate pleas for mercy. Entire fleets abandoned their posts rather than face the dreadnoughts. Whispers spread faster than ships could travel. Whispers that Earth was no longer defending itself. Earth was claiming the stars. Among the alien people, fear turned into respect. Stories spread of human soldiers who treated prisoners with honor, of captains who spared civilians, of fleets that destroyed only military targets. The galaxy had expected savages, but they found discipline. They found humanity. And that made them even more afraid. For an enemy that is merciful can also be patient, and patience wins wars. In the council, cracks began to show. Old alliances broke. Some empires quietly sent envoys to Earth, seeking peace, seeking safety. But humanity rejected them, not out of cruelty but out of certainty. The war was not yet finished. There could be no peace while the galaxy still dreamed of Earth's destruction. On the bridge of the dreadnought Vanguard, the admiral stood watching a map of stars. Each red light marked a fallen fleet. Each new cluster marked a human victory. His officers reported calmly, "The Third Empire has surrendered its colonies. The border fleets have collapsed." The admiral's face did not show triumph, only resolve. "We are not finished," he said. "The galaxy must never forget they mocked us, they hunted us, now they will respect us forever." The turning tide was not only in battles, it was in minds. For centuries, humanity had been seen as weak, as small. But now every alien child grew up hearing the name Earth with fear. Every commander saw dreadnoughts when they closed their eyes. Every ruler knew that the storm could come for them next. The tide had turned and it would never flow back. The galaxy begged for peace, but humanity was not ready to stop. The wounds of mockery still burned. The scars of being prey still lingered. And so the fleets pressed onward, relentless, the tide rising higher with every victory, sweeping away the last remains of laughter, sweeping away the illusions of alien superiority. The council sat in silence as one final message arrived, transmitted openly across every channel, the admiral's, voice cold but steady. "You called us weak. You called us children. You thought Earth would kneel, but now you see Earth does not kneel. Earth rises, and the tide will not stop until the galaxy understands." The message echoed in every system, in every station, in every home. And as the fleets of humanity advanced once more, the galaxy realized the truth. The war was no longer about survival. It was about dominance. The tide had turned and humanity was carrying it forward, unstoppable, unyielding. The laughter of the galaxy was gone forever, replaced by silence, by fear, and soon, by submission. The turning tide belonged to Earth. And Earth alone. The war had burned across the stars, leaving wreckage where mighty fleets once sailed. Empires that had ruled for millennia were broken, their banners torn down, their armies scattered. Humanity's Armada had become an unstoppable tide, and now it stood at the very heart of the galaxy, the alien capital itself, the seat of the council that had once mocked Earth. The skies above the capital world were filled with thousands of ships. Alien defenders formed desperate walls of steel, carriers, destroyers, battleships. Every vessel that could still fly was thrown into the void. Their admirals shouted with hollow courage, "We must hold. We must protect the council." But their voices shook, for on the horizon of stars, the human Armada waited. Dreadnoughts, lined in formation, carriers burning with light, destroyers ready like blades. The storm was here. The command deck of the dreadnought Vanguard was silent. The admiral stared at the holographic display. Countless red markers filled the void, but behind them glowed the blue formation of humanity's fleet, vast, unyielding, unstoppable. He raised his hand and spoke only two words, "Advance, fleet." Engines roared, and the galaxy trembled. The defenders opened fire first. Beams of energy streaked across the void. Missiles filled the black, but the human ships pressed forward, their shields absorbing the first wave. Then the reply came. Dreadnought cannons unleashed storms of fire. Carriers released swarms of fighters that moved like living storms. Destroyers darted through the chaos, tearing into enemy lines. The void turned into a battlefield of light and shadow. One alien battleship after another fell, their shields crumbling, their armor breaking under relentless human fire. Defenders screamed in desperation. Some tried to flee, others charged blindly, but none could stop the tide. Dreadnought after dreadnought advanced, their guns silencing everything in their path. The council's fleet began to break, its proud, banners burning, its mighty commanders begging for reinforcements that would never come. On the capital world below, panic spread through the streets. Civilians looked up at the night sky and saw it filled with fire. Mothers clutched their children. Leaders hid in their fortresses, and the once mighty council sat frozen in their chamber, their faces pale, their voices weak. "What have we done?" one whispered. "We laughed, and now we are undone." Another wept. But humanity was not cruel. Humanity did not rain fire on cities. They struck only at warships, only at fortresses, only at the council's symbols of power. The message was clear. Earth did not come to slaughter. Earth came to rule. And that made the galaxy tremble more than any destruction. Hours passed, and the last of the alien fleet fell silent, their hulks drifting like grave markers across the void. The Armada surrounded the capital world, every escape lane blocked, every orbit controlled. The galaxy had gathered its might, and still, it had fallen. The Admiral of the Vanguard stood tall as he ordered the transmission. Across every channel, in every language, the humans spoke, their words carved into history. "You mocked us. You hunted us. You called us weak. But now you see the truth? Earth does not kneel. Earth commands." His voice echoed across the galaxy. No longer a whisper, no longer a rumor, but law. In the council chamber, alien rulers bowed their heads, their pride shattered. One by one they rose from their seats, not to speak, but to kneel. The image was broadcast live, seen on every colony, every station, every world. The galaxy that once laughed at Earth now watched its rulers bend before humanity. On Earth, billions watched the transmission. The silence of the command halls broke into thunderous cheers. Tears filled the eyes of soldiers who had waited their whole lives for this moment. Families embraced, and for the first time, Earth stood not as prey but as master. But humanity was not finished. The Admiral's final words burned into every heart. "We did not seek this war, but you brought it to us. And now the galaxy is ours to protect. Remember this day. Remember who we are. Humanity rises, and humanity will endure." The Armada held its formation above the alien capital, not as conquerors alone, but as guardians of a new order. The galaxy had laughed, and the laughter had ended in silence, in fear, in submission. The galaxy had mocked Earth, but now the galaxy knelt before Earth's might, and in the cold silence of space, the dreadnoughts drifted like gods of war watching over a galaxy forever changed. The age of mockery was over. The age of humanity had begun.